You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So, over the two scrimmages in fall camp this year, there were reports that came out of the quarterback running for his life. They can't block the front seven. All of this thing was doom and gloom for the offensive line. Reports coming out that, hey, this guy's running for his life. This offensive line could not block them. Nothing seemed to work. And now what you have is a panic amongst the fan base that the offensive line is not going to be good enough. And I've mentioned on my reports of what was going on that in this last scrimmage, the number twos got completely overran by the Ole Miss defensive line, and Trinidad Chambliss running for his life. But I don't think this is as bad as we think, because the panic is coming from inside the fan base, not inside the Manning Center. They're not necessarily frantically moving people around. They're not acting like it is a huge problem. And if they're not acting like it is a huge problem, we need to act like it's going to be okay. Listen, in the first scrimmage, you were without Jayden Williams, and you had P.J. Wilkins running at right tackle. You were without Patrick Kutas, and you had Delano Townsend running at right guard. You had two of the three pieces sitting out that day. Even Lane Kiffin pointed that out. In the second scrimmage, you did not have Jayden Williams, one of the presumably starting tackles, and you didn't have Diego Pounds for very long. Delano Townsend got a little bit nicked up and knocked out, and we don't know exactly the severity of that. But you did have Patrick Kutas in that situation. So you were down roughly 2 out of the 5 starting pieces on the defensive line for both scrimmages, going against a defensive line that we all think is going to be very good, to elite. It's one of those things that you need to pay attention to what's happening, because they are going to be very good. So if they're not panicking inside the Manning Center, they're not panicking at scrimmages trying to find stuff, they might be moving things around. I think the fan base needs to take a step back and take a deep breath. It's not a panic-worthy situation. Now, that said, this offensive line a year ago, Ole Miss had trouble running the football. If Ole Miss has that same trouble running the football, you need to not go for it the same way that you did in the past. On 4th and 1 and 4th and 2, don't take it as such a sure thing. Whether it's Damian Taylor back there in the Wildcat or whatever's going on 4th and 1, you need to be very judicious about going for it if your offensive line is bad. Because the honesty in this whole offensive line situation, the offensive line gets so much blame for 2024. I mean, they just own every single bit of it, but nobody goes after the fact that if you're struggling to run the football and you're running the ball on 4th and 1 and you don't get it, and you do that over and over and over again, that's not on the offensive line at that point. That's on the coach's staff. That's on putting the players in a position not to succeed. It's one of those reasons that I say that analytics is just the old English word that means bad football, because it doesn't take into account problems that you have. Problems that Ole Miss ran into in Tiger Stadium. Problems that Ole Miss ran into in the Swamp and ended up losing those games. Ole Miss had a 12-0 roster in 2024. One of the best rosters in the game. They should have ended up in the SEC championship game and making a long run in the playoffs, but they didn't. And everybody trying to figure out the why of that situation is how they pretzel themselves. That's how they tie themselves up in knots. It's not always the offensive line when the offensive line looks like the piece. There could be other reasons that that position is struggling. And a lot of that has to do with play calling. A lot of that has to do with situational awareness. A lot of that has to do with getting the best out of the 5 players that are on the field. The thing that I'm going to look for as soon as the Georgia State game happens, I want to see snaps. In 2022, that was the 8-5 team. Ole Miss could not snap the ball to the point where you could not time up a jet sweep to do all the things that you wanted to do, actually hampering the offense. That was something in 2022 that we thought of. Reese McIntyre in 2024. God bless him. He was good. He wasn't that good. There was a hole in the interior of that offensive line. That was one of the reasons they weren't able to run the football. The center position in Georgia State, the center position against the Kentucky Wildcats, thank goodness, what is his name, Deion Walker or whatever his name is not coming back. But Ole Miss has a chance to be really, really good and good enough on the offensive line. There's no reason to panic, in my opinion. So, this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason is already heating up, and college football is not far behind. So whether you've got your eye on a big-name quarterback or a breakout running back, Prize Picks makes it easy to get in on the game. Maybe it is just the hard knocks happening right now, but I am a huge Josh Allen guy, and I think this might be the year for Buffalo. Prize Picks is a way for me to kind of test that theory. Prize Picks put their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, to get $50 in lineups after you play that first $5 lineup. That's the code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, to get $50 in lineups after you play that first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. When I'm on top of my hydration, I notice everything works better. My energy, my mood, my focus, even my skin. But getting enough fluids every day is not always easy. That's why I've been loving Drip Drop. Drip Drop is doctor developed and scientifically proven for fast hydration. It uses the perfect balance of sodium electrolytes and glucose to help your body absorb the fluids quickly, delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half of the sugar of the leading sports drink. My go-to flavor right now is cherry limeade. It's a game changer after a workout or on those extra busy days. And walking twice per day in the Florida heat, it's absolutely draining. But Drip Drop is able to help all of that. Right now, Drip Drop is offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first order. Just head to dripdrop.com and use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONCollege for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits really hard. You know, if you're running a business, every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you needed a service. If the person didn't answer, did you wait? Probably not. You moved on. That is why you need open phone, so you never miss an opportunity to connect with your customers. Open phone is the #1 business phone system designed to streamline and scale your customer communications. Do you juggle 2 phones just to keep business and personal calls separate? Open phone solves that problem for you instantly. Your whole team can share one number and respond to customers like a shared inbox. No more who's handling this. And the AI agent handles after hours calls, answers common questions, and captures leads. So I never miss a customer again. So see why over 60,000 businesses trust Open Phone. They're offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedoncollege. That's openphone.com/lockedoncollege. They'll even port over your existing numbers for free. Open Phone, no missed calls, no missed customers. Today in Ole Miss Trivia, we are talking about Ole Miss versus LSU on Halloween. The Rebels have not played the LSU Tigers on Halloween for quite a while, but the last time they played, what was the year and the score of that football game? And for bonus points, what do we remember about that game? Put your answers down below. We will put the answer out on social media a little bit later on today. Thank you for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your go-to source for Ole Miss sports. We pride ourselves on offering the most comprehensive perspectives, which is why we are the front door of Ole Miss. If you don't believe me, Google Ole Miss podcast and see how much the Locked On Ole Miss podcast comes up. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment on the YouTube channel and on whichever podcast you're listening to. It helps the show. It is completely free. Your support means the world to us. For your second listen, check out the Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to college football's landscape. Find the Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Hotty toddy, everybody. And remember, analytics is just the old English word meaning bad football. We'll see you tomorrow.